Hey everybody, today we're doing Build Onchain episode, which is a video series featuring technical Web3 leaders who provide hands-on tutorials for their protocols, tools, and frameworks. Each episode breaks down practical implementation strategies and equips developers with the knowledge to start building on-chain immediately. Today we have Espresso Systems. Whit, do you want to give an intro by yourself?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Whit. I lead marketing at Espresso Systems. And we are the lead developers of the Espresso network, which is a base layer that is designed from the ground up specifically to serve rollups, app chains, any of these kind of modern application layer, layer twos. So, and obviously I have to go deeper as we get into the conversation, but
Yep, we have a lot of questions, a lot of things to discuss. But do you want to get started with tell a little bit of your story of how you got started at Espresso?
Oh, okay. Personal story. Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think it's been about 14, 15 months since I've been at Espresso. And prior to that, I was working on some content marketing on the staking team at Coinbase. It was what was called Coinbase Cloud. Now it's kind of Coinbase developer platform. I'd been doing some content marketing there. And previously, I got the first crypto, Web3 job that full-time job I got was in 2022. I joined a little startup called Dark Block. We were doing an encryption protocol to allow to offer like a Web3 native way for creators to sell premium content. So, you could encrypt any sort of multimedia file and immutably attach it to an NFT. And so, targeting, authors who wanted to sell, their ebooks or, anyone who's, selling photography, music, film, videos, that sort of thing. But my background, I spent a lot of time as a journalist, actually. And then eventually, got into kind of corporate communications and PR and Web2 stuff. And I think it was in 2017 where I first got into crypto. But, back then it was, having been a journalist and, more of a traditional kind of corporate comms guy, not many avenues at that point into like a professional position in crypto. Right. And so it took a few years, but yeah, finally, 2022 finally found the on-ramp. And yeah, haven't looked back. So it's been awesome. Espresso was really lucky to get an intro to Jill Gunter, who's one of the co-founder at Espresso, and actually started just doing some contract work with her, helping on some content marketing front. And then eventually, joined full time, and here we are.
That's awesome. I know Espresso has some of the best merch in the game. Your Carhartt jackets were the talk of the town.
Yes, that's some great merch. I'm not wearing any of it at the moment, but yeah, the Espresso jackets have been great. I mean, yeah, we were just at Dev Connect down in Buenos Aires, and we have also do these Ethereum United jerseys, and so we released a new edition this year with the Argentine blue colors, and we handed out 2,000 of those in 2 days. They went quick. Yeah.
Oh wow, 2,000. Oh my God, that's a lot of shirts to move.
Yeah. So, but yeah, merch, we got a good merch game for sure. The espresso drip, as we like to call it,
Oh, I actually like that. I like that a lot. We have to come up with a clever name with Eco now.
It turns out if you have your company and your blockchain is called Espresso, it seems there's all sorts of fun things you can do with that.
Yeah.
Play on words. But
so let's talk more about Espresso, like on the technical side. So we're here for you to demo a product today. So do you want to get started on it?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, demoing the product. I mean, I think I'll give a quick just talk about what we're up to, and then the demo will make more sense. But big picture, the goal that we set out to reach is to solve fragmentation within the Ethereum ecosystem. At least starting with the Ethereum ecosystem, but eventually even beyond that, really just wanting to ensure that the future of Web3, a user's experience can be seamless when they're interacting across blockchains, across rollups, all that stuff. So that's been our North Star. And we've gone through some changes in how we kind of position the product and talk about us. But right now it's, we talk about Espresso as a base layer that's purpose built for rollups, from scratch. So, as most people know, right, Ethereum is a layer one. Obviously, it was very innovative when it came out, and smart contracts and money Legos and everything that goes along with Web3 and composability, right? It's all grew out of this amazing Ethereum ecosystem. And it became so popular that obviously became congested, expensive to transact with, and slow. And so, rollups were the solution. And while rollups certainly have helped kind of scale Ethereum, we also know that it's fragmented Ethereum as well. Users, developers, liquidity. So, and that's really because these rollups now are isolated execution environments, right? And so now, anytime you're trying to interact across these rollups, there's a lot of friction, a lot of hurdles, and anyone who's spent time in the space has, I'm sure, experienced that friction. And it's so Espresso is we are technically a layer one as well, though we're not a layer one that supports smart contracts or anything like that. So you can't launch a token on Espresso or anything. It's a layer one. We have our own kind of custom designed consensus protocols called HotShot, and it's just it's designed to reach consensus as fast as possible on transaction ordering and data availability. So rollups that integrate with Espresso basically gain fast finality, finality on their blocks, and fully compatible though with Ethereum. So ApeChain, for instance, is a rollup that is integrated with Espresso. So right now, all the transactions that happen on ApeChain, ApeChain's sequencer is immediately taking all those transactions, putting them into its block, and forwarding them to Espresso. And our consensus protocol, our consensus network, is reaching consensus on those blocks and just the order of the transactions and the data availability in right now average of 6 seconds. So and at that point, basically Espresso is locked in ApeChain's state, and ApeChain after that, whenever it wants to, will publish its block to Arbitrum 1, right, and eventually to Ethereum for settlement. But the finality, right, is, and we can talk about the terms and that sort of thing. When we're just talking on Ethereum on the layer one, right, finality and settlement are, basically kind of the same thing, right? There's no real distinction between them. But once we embrace this rollup-centric roadmap, finality and settlement are slightly different now. So finality is this idea of when you can trust that a transaction won't revert, right? You trust that a transaction is final. That's finality, right? Ethereum is designed the way it is. It's very secure, but it's actually very slow when it comes to finality, right? 12 plus minutes for finality. And when we were all interacting on the L1, on the Ethereum L1, that didn't matter, right? You still, had this kind of seamless composability among, contracts on the L1, between, among apps on the L1. All these transactions, you didn't have to wait for one to finalize before, it triggers another one because of atomic execution, right? All the transactions would either succeed or fail. So slow finality didn't matter. Of course, now it matters because if you have, a user on base, and an app on base that wants to be some sort of like, cross-chain interaction with, an app on Arbitrum, suddenly now finality is a big deal because Base and Arbitrum have centralized sequencers. Of course, the fastest way to communicate would be for them to just, be trusting each other's centralized sequencer, but that's, not ideal. They could also go, interact by, passing messages via, the L1, but that's very slow, right? Very secure, but very slow. 12 plus minutes just to finalize one message, that, and then back the other way. So this is the reality. And, obviously there's a lot of interop solutions out there, but really, if you start to think about it, they're all really just kind of like app layer kind of level patches that are just kind of treating the symptoms of fragmentation, right? They're not actually addressing the underlying cause of the fragmentation, really, which is this kind of slow finality at the base layer. Yes, rollups are isolated execution environments, but if our thesis is that even if they're isolated execution environments, it doesn't matter as long as they have fast, secure finality. Then they can communicate directly, and that's fine. So, yeah, all the other interop solutions, bridges, and intent-based bridges and solver networks and messaging protocols and kind of trust-based designs like OP's superchain or committee-based, obviously, security, and all like app level patches over this. And so what we're doing is addressing the fragmentation at the base layer, and that is by obviously like providing these rollups to with fast finality. So getting back to it, ApeChain, and I can demo like what we've done is we've created the first kind of bridgeless cross-chain mint, including involving two rollups that are integrated with Espresso. Rari Chain, which from the Rari Foundation, which grew out of the Rarible NFT platform, and ApeChain. So yeah, I mean, if you want to spin up that screen, I can get to it. So yeah, this is a little collection we put together. Of course, had to go with a espresso machine theme, but this collection, there's 5 NFTs in it. We just create a collection, for the purposes of demoing this product, right? But it's kind of fun. 5 themes, classic, like futuristic. That one's a mythic, and so what's interesting though is that this is on obviously the Rarible platform. The NFT collection itself lives on ApeChain, but if you notice, as soon as I hit this, we actually have the ability to buy it right now just with Ape, or actually buy it and spending funds that I have on a Rari Chain. And you can see like, yeah, this is you can see at the bottom here, it's powered by Espresso. Rarible is integrated, our solution for this kind of one-click, cross-chain payment into their platform to enable this. And so this is what we're seeing right now. And I mean, I'll just mint it just to show you. Oh shit. Cool. All right. So yeah, I'm going to just confirm that transaction. Boom. So congrats on a little bit. So, it's actually, it's one of those things, like, it's so simple. It's hard to explain. I mean, anyone who has minted NFTs before, right, is used to just, clicking mint, sign transaction, boom, we're good. Or really any sort of interactions, with, initiating transactions. But in most cases, right, you're trusting pre-confirmations from sequencers and that sort of thing, right? So in this case, and actually I'll go to the wallet now just to see It's actually is it? I think I already owned 2, so I don't think actually the new one has shown up yet. But what we're seeing, what's happening under the hood here is that ApeChain and Rari Chain are, so usually before, if I wanted to mint an NFT on ApeChain and I didn't have any funds there, right, but I had funds on Rari Chain, I would have to go manually go bridge funds, right, and go find use an intent-based bridge like a cross or another kind of bridge, using liquidity bridge and bridge funds over, and have to be thinking about, okay, what's the all right, gas fees to send this transaction. Also got to make sure to have send enough to mint the NFT, but also cover that gas fee. I don't want to send too much because I want to leave dust on that other chain, yada yada yada, and and then go ahead and mint. And obviously that's the friction I was talking about, from caused by this fragmentation. But if you think about it, the only reason the bridges like that exist is because these chains can't, the smart contracts on these chains can't just communicate directly in a safe, secure way without worrying about transactions reverting and the double spend problem and all that stuff, right? And so because Rari Chain and ApeChain are integrated with Espresso, and we have this fast finality, what's happening under the hood is that, actually, let me pull up the diagram now. So here's the NFT that I just minted. So I got a organic, but this is it. So this lives on ApeChain, but I paid for it with funds on Rari Chain. So that's really a really simple basic thing. Let me share my other screen though here. All right, yeah. If you want to pull that one up. So this is so we call it Presto, is like kind of what this solution for one click cross chain payments is what we're calling this we're calling it Presto. So that's why it says how Presto works. But what's happening here is that users on Rarible obviously and is using their funds to buy an NFT on ApeChain. Actually, sorry. In this this one's actually the opposite. We have a second phase of the collection where it's going to be reversed. Where you can use funds on ApeChain to mint the collection on Rari Chain. And that's what this diagram is specifically showing. But anyway, Rarible, user pays, initiates the transaction, pays with their funds on ApeChain. The payment contract is saying, is being finalized within 6 seconds because of, again, the Espresso fast finality. We use Hyperlane in this demo, right? You still need, to communicate in such a way. So they're passing messages using Hyperlane in this case. And Hyperlane is basically, instead of reading ApeChain state from like Arbitrum 1 or Ethereum, it's reading state from Espresso. This ApeChain CAF node is just what we call, it's like a rollup full node, but it reads state from Espresso. So Hyperlane is taking that message from that payment contract, it's sending to Rari Chain, and it's the ApeChain CAF node is kind of what is verifying all the transactions and verifying state. Hyperlane is then passing the message to Rari Chain, the mint contract. Rari Chain, the contract is saying, okay, boom, it's paid, NFT is minted. And it's like very, it's very simple, but it's actually, quite new and innovative because it hasn't been this, seamless before to interact across chain. Now, there's also obviously stuff we can talk about, like account abstraction and, wallets and stuff like that can enable some of this stuff. But it's not exactly the same because just like the other interop solutions we talked about, they're just patching over at the application layer. So they're still having to do things like, using bridges and swaps and stuff like that. And the back end is just, just like intense. It's like the user experience is great, seamless in a seamless experience. But in those cases, just sacrificing security for speed, because it's the solver that's taking on the finality risk now, and fulfilling an intent before that transaction is actually final, right? And same with some of the other just like interop solutions that are out there. So, but with Espresso, we're not sacrificing security for speed. It's fast and secure. It's a BFT consensus protocol. We are getting close to launching our proof of stake, so that's exciting. We have a TGE coming up, and just one quick note on the how the integration works is that in this case, like ApeChain, right? You're paying on ApeChain, and we talk about, okay, that transaction's final, and later ApeChain will settle to Arbitrum 1 and Ethereum whenever it wants. But the reason we can still trust that transaction's final after 6 seconds is because Espresso is locked in that state, and part of the integration is such that ApeChain sequencer is now prevented from settling any block to Arbitrum 1 or Ethereum that's not identical to the Espresso confirmed block, right? So that's why it's even if it doesn't settle for decide to publish its block to Arbitrum 1 for another hour or so, whenever it does, it's forced to only publish the block that's already been confirmed and finalized by Espresso. And so it's really like, again, what kind of modular design for finality, right? Finality and settlement in this case are different, right? Settlement is, okay, proving to these the L1 that has these native assets that we want our users to custody on our rollup, right? We need to verify the state of those assets to Ethereum, right? They're settling. Cool thing about when we take finality and it's a modular design is that now rollups can actually, they'll be able to, multi-bridge rollups that settle to multiple L1s. So it'd be just as easy for ApeChain, to now maintain an asset bridge to Solana and have, native Sol on their chain. They get finality from Espresso, and then whatever they settle to the various L1s, whichever L1s they maintain asset bridges to whenever they want. So, I feel like I've been rambling for a while. I can stop and answer any questions you have.
That's very interesting. So far, how many chains do you have supported?
So we launched mainnet about a year ago, and over the course of this year, we've integrated 9, and we have some big ones coming up. Cello is in the process of integrating right now, and they will be the first OP stack chain, which is exciting too. I mean, we're agnostic to tech stack you use, right? To date, the chains that have integrated, like Rari Chain I mentioned, and ApeChain are all Arbitrum Nitro chains, and Cartesi is a Linux-based VM. They also have integrated with us as well, and we have a couple of Cartesi chains on testnet right now. So yeah, I mean, it's we have like 20 plus chain rollups in the various stages of the pipeline, and yes, as more rollups integrate, obviously it's there's a network effects begin to take shape, and it's becomes more valuable to plug into the network, and yeah, so
that leads into the next question about like alt VMs or like sovereign rollups, right? Do you guys have plans to support those? Do you already support those settling on that DA layer?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how do you define sovereign rollup in this case?
Like in the question I would have, right, is like anything outside of like EVM, if you will, right? Would they be able to settle to your DA? Do you guys have plans for that?
Yeah, no, we are, we want to be agnostic to whatever tech stack, VM, settlement layer, as I said. So, like, yeah, I mean, big picture, like long term, you know, our idea is really, you know, rollups were a little bit like an afterthought, right? So Ethereum needs to find a way to scale. So rollups were the way, and in the process, you know, there's lots of obviously promises of decentralizing, you know, over time, and the sequencer, you know, specifically. But that really hasn't come to pass. And I think a lot of people have come to realize, or at least accept, that, you know, there are certain benefits to actually having a centralized sequencer, or at least, you know, a sequencer that is that a rollup has, you know, just more control over, right? You know, there might be like app specific sequencing, you know, that, you know, they need to do based on the application, and, you know, right, their own like transaction ordering logic, because they're like, you know, a gaming chain or something like that. And so I don't know, in this process, I mean, I think we've you know, come to realize that rollups really have kind of, the rollup architecture is going to offer a picture of the future, like what a multi-chain future looks like, right? Where, you know, there are just, you know, every app is basically becomes its own chain, rather than the original, like, I think vision that people have is like all apps would be on, you know, one monolithic L1, right? And like all, like if you had all, you know, our web 2 apps, they'd all need to be recreated and, you know, redone as smart contracts and deployed on Ethereum. And I think that's not, you know, has become clear, is not feasible, and not really going to happen. And so it's yeah, more idea of okay, how do we then now enable, you know, this multi-chain future? So what we believe is that any app, like a web 2 app, should be able to you know, basically take their data and post it to a base layer like Espresso, and, you know, open source, it's kind of transaction ordering, you know, sequencing logic, transaction ordering logic, basically post that data to a base layer like Espresso, which is, you know, reaching finality on that transaction ordering and all the data very quickly, and could basically become a Web3 chain almost overnight like that. And that's the idea. You don't need to recreate your app as a smart contract to gain some of the benefits of web, you know, the Web3, both security and interop. So, like, that's the long term vision. Is just so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is
all
the
VMs, anything? Yeah.
interesting? And then what does the future look like for like interop amongst chains that don't use Espresso as a base layer, right? We have like Arbitrum, Optimism that settle directly to Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
What would the interop look like there with chains? Let's say that's like Rari Chain or ApeChain, right? They settle to they use the Espresso system as a DA layer.
Mhm.
Would the interop be possible with like that Optimism or Arbitrum chain?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, there's lots we can unpack here. I mean, we work with, you know, several L3s right now, just because that's, you know, in the Arbitrum ecosystem, there's lots, but we also are integrated with L2. There's some Arbitrum, you know, Nitro, you know, not Arbitrum orbit chains that are L2s, like Rufus, which is an L2 kind of created by the Dogelon Mars communities, like basically a host of metaverse, their metaverse app and that sort of thing. They're an L2. So it's not, you know, L2s, L3s, you know, they can all integrate with Espresso. And we work very closely with the Off-Chain Labs, you know, team. And so we do hope to, at some point, you know, propose to the Arbitrum DAO, you know, about Arbitrum 1 integrating Espresso. And obviously that would be a big milestone as well for us. It's not, there's no, just integrating with Espresso. It's not, there's no rip and replace like happening here. Like it's you know, any roll up that is integrating with Espresso is keeping it centralized. It is keeping its own sequencer, and everything like that. We're just like, we just provide the fast finality. and the data availability, and optionally, this if you did want to decentralize sequencing, but and they're not having to like sacrifice sovereignty or even sacrifice the speed of their pre-confirmations either, right? Like ApeChain integrated with Espresso fast finality, but they still are giving their users 250 millisecond pre-confirmations. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but to get back to your original question, I mean, interop with all these other, I mean, I think we're going to see lots of different interop. I mean, there's certainly, I mean, I think that, you'll see certain, chains in like kind of a OP super chain type situation where it's kind of like mutual trust. They're just trusting, the centralized sequencers. I'm sure there'll be, some chains that do like, explore shared sequencing, and, some that just kind of are, exist on their own, and, using their existing interop. I mean, ideally, what Espresso is enabling, the value becomes clear, and the benefit of plugging into a an interop kind of fast finality layer like Espresso outweighs the benefit of somehow staying outside that network. So obviously we want all the rollups to eventually use our infrastructure to enable fast secure interop. But and I mean we there's also obviously based rollups that are an option. That's right now more about regaining composability with the L1 more than kind of cross rollup in interop. But I mean, I'm not sure I quite answered your question. I mean, what does interop look like? I mean, and we're talking about interop right now between rollups, but what Espresso and the fast finality does is also just enhance interop with other things like other interop protocols, bridges, exchanges, right?
In your eyes, what's the end game? What's like what is it going to look like, right? In your eyes.
I mean, in an ideal world where all these chains are using the Espresso network as a a fast base layer, kind of designed for these modern modern rollups app chains, the kind of modern blockchain app layer. Yeah, it just looks like that. They're all just able to communicate directly because they can do it in a fast, secure way, right? Which is not currently possible just because Ethereum was designed the way it is, because it is what it is, and Ethereum, is incredibly secure, and is the home to ETH and all sorts of very valuable assets, right? But it wasn't designed to support this app layer that we now seeing take shape, right, in these kind of multi roll-up kind of future. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that the future is, all these roll-ups, app chains, are all integrating with a fast, secure base layer designed to support them, and that's Espresso.
I like it. So now that we're getting into the end of it, anything that you want to shout out of what you guys are building, anything that's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about. I mean, the Presto is like Presto in this cross-chain mint that I was showing you. I mean, it's like I said, it's very like simple demo to show, and it's it's deceptively complex under the hood, but quite simple. But that's just an example of one application. Obviously, once chains can again can communicate directly in a very fast, very secure way, all sorts of other application are possible. So for instance, cross-chain like clobs, right? Like Hyperliquid is a clob, but it's like it's its own chain, of course. So if you want to interact there and open and close positions, you're having to again bridge funds there, and has, is fragmented liquidity. But in an ideal world, you have, such, fast transaction finality that you could be opening and closing positions from multiple chains on this club, right? And we do have a team working on building that, leveraging kind of Espresso's base layer. So applications like that, obviously, other DeFi apps that could benefit from cross chain. What they're benefiting from is the fact that cross chain interop that we enable basically like unifies liquidity, right? So you don't have the fragmented liquidity anymore. Suddenly, you have users that can take their liquidity and use it on your chain from anywhere. So in a small case like this NFT mint that I just showed, right? Like you could have a creator on ApeChain, like, before would, launch an NFT collection, and then who's going to buy it is, your market's limited to people who already have funds on ApeChain, or, it's such a big draw that you have people bridging there. But, generally you can think about it like people on ApeChain with funds on ApeChain, that's the market for that creator. Now, technically, as chains are integrated with Espresso, that now market opens up to people with liquidity on any of these other chains can now immediately buy your art or whatever it's going to be, with these kind of seamless payments. And then, I will say, like I mentioned, like right now on mainnet, our average finality time is 6 seconds, which is great. It's definitely a lot faster than 12 plus minutes finality on Ethereum, but it is still too slow for what we actually want to see. So we on our internal devnet, we already have finality time down to 2 seconds on devnet, and that devnet's 100 globally distributed nodes. So that's promising, and we have a very clear path to sub-second finality in 2026. So again, that the speed will just be that much faster. I mean, 6 seconds still is not, it's not bad. Like I minted that NFT and I had it pretty quickly, but once you have finality in the kind of a sub-second territory, then we approach kind of the seamless user experiences that people are used to when they interact on the web today, right? And that's where we want to get to with Web3.
Nice. Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Espresso. And thank you guys for tuning in. And it was a pleasure to have you, Whit.
Thank you. And we didn't actually talk about, eco stablecoins, huge, like obviously huge when it comes to payments and stuff. And so there's certainly a lot of applications for Espresso within the stablecoin world. But save that for another episode.
Yep. Tune in for the next one. A little foreshadow.
All right.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you guys for watching.